I'm John Davies with GreenBiz, and I'm at Verge today with Peter Kelly-Detwiler. And Peter, welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So Peter, you did a session yesterday, and I'd like to drill in a little bit for our audience here of what's going on with innovation in the energy markets.
Well, I think the main thing to understand is that it's rapidly increasing. If we'd had this conversation 5 years ago about solar, storage, wind, etc., people would have laughed and said, oh, that's really futuristic. And it's already here. And what we're finding is that everything is actually increasing. So I like to say we're not looking at a static snapshot, we're looking at a motion picture, and the frames are actually accelerating.
So what are some examples of that innovation?
So if we look at, for example, PV, the rooftop solar, we see now that there are new materials being introduced like perovskite, which may radically increase the efficiency of those solar panels. We see thin film getting better. On the storage side, we see a whole host of battery companies that have technologies that are out of the labs in the field with the cost curves coming down. The one everyone knows about, obviously, is Tesla's Gigafactory, but there are a host of other competing technologies out there as well.
So where's the threat or the risk to the big utilities?
Well, the challenge is they're based mostly on volumetric sales. The more kilowatt hours they sell, the more money they make, the less they make. So if you have a lot of solar and a lot of storage, they're not selling the kilowatt hours, but they still have the obligation to serve everybody and keep the infrastructure out there. So then how do you treat people fairly that way? At the Verge conference in Boston a year and a half ago, you had someone, a professor from Harvard Business School, who said it's our obligation to society to think about and be compassionate to the losers. Otherwise the winners won't win because the losers will try and stop everything. So really what we have to think about is what's that new social compact that we're forging here as a consequence of all the new technology and business models that are being developed and all these hordes on the edges that are intent on taking over the energy markets.
Right. So now, a lot of Verges around technology, meeting sustainability, and a lot of entrepreneurs we've got here this week. So what's your advice to entrepreneurs looking to make their mark in the energy industry?
My advice is that look for the fringes where the value, where the avoided costs are the highest. So in solar it was, in the old days, highway signs, navigational buoys, and remote cabins where it didn't make sense to wire them up to the grid. And then you get cost structures come down, volumes of scale, etc., economies of scale. So if you're storage or whatever, those companies are looking at telecoms where values are high and they can provide value to the market now, or markets like Hawaii where it's 40 cents a kilowatt hour. So look for the markets where your product can already create value because you're dealing with a high avoided cost environment.
That's great. So you've been at several of these. So what do you like coming to Verge?
This would be my fourth, so I'm kind of a Verge junkie. What I enjoy about it is, unlike a lot of other conferences, and I go to a lot of conferences and I enjoy a lot of them, but this one's unique because it is that mashup between water and energy and IT and communications and technology. And it's full of people who are kind of trying to bend light and see around the corner and figure out what the next thing is. And that sense of optimism and hope and creativity I find to be unique here.
That's great. So I've been here with PKD, with NorthBridge Energy Partners. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, my pleasure.